This is a quick little video about how to fill out your score sheet and how to score your games. We'll do a little glossary of terms and things that you'll need to know to get you going. So this is what your score sheet looks like. It has 5 sections. Player and match info, what happened on the break, what happened at your second turn at the table, game scoring, and the stats. You're going to start in the first section, and you're going to start by filling out the player's name, the monitor's name, which is a person that verifies the match and marks the scores for that player, the location information. You want to be sure to fill in the date of your match, the game that you're playing, and the match number for the week. Now, some players may play more than one match a week, so you need to make sure that you put match 1, match 2, or whatever for that week, so that because that will affect the handicap. And if you're playing 10 ball, the name of the 10 ball game is called 211, so you want to put the game as 211 up there. The section below the information area is actually where the scoring starts, so let's take a quick look at that. A match consists of 11 games. If you break and run in the 11th game, you actually get 12 games. Depending on if your 11th game was a cut game or a snap game would determine how many points that you get to count on that last 12th game. And we'll cover that later when we talk about snap and cut games. So perfect score is considered to be 220 points. It's possible to score more than 220 points by making additional 10 balls along the way, but we consider a perfect game to be 220 points. The way that you can make 220 points is you need to make a ball on the break, or execute a cut game option running out for all 11 games. Well, if you run out the 11th game, then you get an additional game, so actually there's 12 games that you can play that would get you 220 points. So let's go over a few terms you should know before we get started. One thing to keep in mind when you're playing this, and it's kind of easy to forget that you're actually in a tournament and that every shot counts and every player is playing by the same rules. So, you know, if you're trying to be nice to somebody so their feelings aren't hurt because they didn't play very good or they fouled or whatever, forget about it, because this is a tournament and all of it every rule needs to be followed to the T. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on. Snap game. A snap game is when you make a ball on the break, and legally run out the entire rack. A cut game is when you break and you don't make a ball on the break, but legally run out the whole rack. A cut option executed is when you have a cut game, and the game following the cut game, you opt to play the table as it lays and you forego taking ball in hand, then that is considered a cut option executed, and that's scored differently. The scoring is actually in 3 parts. The upper part is what happens on the break. The middle section is what happened at your second turn of the table. And the third area is for marking additional 10 balls in your running total. So let's start with what happens on the break. You've got a box which says break over the top of it. What you're going to do here is you're going to score how many balls that you pocketed on the break, if any. If you didn't mark any balls in the break, then you want to put a 0 in there. If you scratch on the break or foul, then you're going to put an X in the box with an S over the top of it, and then you're going to put a -1 in the break box. So we know that your total score for the break was a -1. If you make a 10 ball on the break, you're going to put an X in the box with the 10B over the top of it, and you will not put any points in the break box. If you make a 10 ball on the break and you foul, that 10 ball respots and you do not get an extra point for that on a foul. The middle section is where you're going to score what happened after you took ball in hand after the break. So you see a row of boxes there with the letters in them. S stands for scratch. Scratch would be if you pocket a ball and scratch, then that's when you would mark that box. Now, if you miss your ball and you scratch, that is not a scratch. That is considered an M, and you'd mark the box with the M in it for miss. F is for foul, all ball fouls. So if you drop the bridge on the table, or jump a cue ball or an object ball off the table, or move something with your hand, then that is considered a foul, and you'd put an X with the box with an F. H is for hooked, and this only applies to your first turn at the table after the break, or maybe the second turn. It's if one of the lowest 2 balls on the table after the break are tied up with no pocket to go to. A lot of times after the break, or sometimes after the break, if say you got a shot on the 1 ball, but there's no opportunity for you to go down and break the 2 ball out, and you're tied up, then that's when you would utilize that H for a hooked. P is for position error. If you leave yourself a low percentage shot and you miss it, then that would be a position error, and you'd want to mark an X in that box. And M is for miss, and it's a shot that you probably should have made, or more than likely should have made, and you didn't. And you would just put an X in that box with the M. If you ran out on your second turn at the table, of course, then you wouldn't be using any of those boxes. You would leave all those boxes blank, and we'll show you how to mark that down below. Now, just below all the boxes with the letters in it is the place for you to put balls run. This is for the number of balls that you ran during your second turn at the table. Do not include the amount of balls that you made on the break. That is separate, and that's scored up above. This is only for the balls, the number of balls that you pocketed on your second turn of the table. If you run all the balls off the table, this is where your cut game, snap game, and your cut option comes into play. You will not mark any of those little boxes up there because nothing finished your turn on the table besides running out. So if you scored a snap game, which is making a ball in the break and legally running out all the rest of the balls, you're going to put an X in the snap cut box. If you scored a cut game, which is breaking the balls and not making a ball in the break but yet running out, you will mark the box with a diagonal line from the upper right-hand corner to the lower left-hand corner. The bottom portion of this part of the score sheet is where you mark additional 10 balls during your run and where you have your running total. If you make an additional 10 ball during your run, you'd respot the 10 ball, and then you would put an X in one of the two boxes down below. For every additional 10 ball, put an X in a box, and if you make additional 10 balls more than 2, then put a notation there that you made more than 2, or put 3 or another X or something to signify that you made more than 2 additional 10 balls. On the bottom lower right is your running total. First game, you scored a total amount of balls, say 8. You're going to add up what you made in your game 2, and you're going to add it to game 1, and you're going to put it in the bottom of game 2 in the total running score. So you had 8 in the first game. Let's say you had 6 in the second game. So you have a total running score in the second game of 14.